People, Deluded, I'm back again. Good morning, and I hope you're all well and safe. Now, I've got some talking points, so without wasting any more time or waffling any further, please allow me to just simply get to them. The first is, and it's a bit of a bewildering one, really and truly. It's a bit funny, but I'm not going to give my personal opinions. I'm just going to read it. As you know, Corona is an epidemic harming a lot of footballers, harming a lot of people in the world. And you've seen in relation to Celta Vigo, is it I can't remember his name, man. Is it Pisto? I can't remember his name, but the Danish lad, he played at the under-21s championships and he's a winger for Celta Vigo. He got in a lot of stick for driving from, I assume, Spain back to his homeland in Denmark. And one of his teammates, 30-year-old Fendor Smolov, I believe that's his name, has become the second Celta Vigo player to defy instructions not to leave the country during the corona pandemic after the Russian forward returned to his homeland on a private jet so he could be with his fiancée, the granddaughter of former Russian President Boris Yeltsin, on her 18th birthday. 30-year-old 18th birthday. I mean, people are free to do what they want to do, and I'm not going to talk on a man's life and things, people, but that is a bit bewildering and it's a bit spooky. I mean, you're 30, she's turning 18, when did you lot meet, sort of thing. But let's move away from that, people. Long story short, yeah, man, his players are starting to, here and there, players are starting to not listen, and players are getting in a lot of stick and trouble. And to be honest, as a British society, people need to start listening. Like I'm seeing on Sky News, some guy with his child in a park was saying, oh, it's all nonsense and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you're selfish, because you can be, listen, you can be an idiot, but you're putting your child, young little toddler, probably max 5 years of age, less than, that's not toddler, but maybe like 3 to 4. It's ridiculous, people, and you're seeing people die. It does. I don't want it to happen to no one, but it does feel like the only way people will take this seriously is if directly their mother or their gran got this, because a lot of people are taking it seriously, but there's a blasé approach, really and truly. I know lockdown gets frustrating, but the quicker we actually lock down and listen, the quicker there might be a resolution to this, people. It's sad. As you lot know, it's harmed a lot of people in Spain, man. I believe it's claimed 12,000 lives, it says here. I'm sure it must be more than that. But that's what the article said. And yeah, man, another player not listening. I'm sure you've all seen Kyle Walker's in hot water again. He typically gets in hot water when he's away with England, like you've seen in the headlines. Long story short, apparently Kyle Walker is facing disciplinary action from Manchester City after breaking the UK's government rules on social distancing amid the coronavirus pandemic. Now, I don't want to get into rumours, but long story short, apparently him and a friend invited a couple girls over. What shall be, and somehow this thing leaked. The first thing I will say is obviously stupidity. I mean, it's not about age. This ain't a naive mistake. If a teenager made it, you should get the same energy, because this is common sense. Kyle Walker, like, you're 30 odd years of age, you're an experienced player, you're a father, you should know how reckless this is going to be and what is going to happen. So you have to face the music. Like you've seen, he's come out and said sorry. Like Grealish, he's also, brought out them, them little videos urging people to stay at home. And, if you're not going to listen to your own rules, make sure you don't get caught if you're going to be stupid, because you look like an idiot. And if you're going to do these sort of things, make sure the women you're bringing, you actually know them, because clearly I don't know anything, but you can imagine these are random women. You've brought them, they've sold the paper, they've sold it to the papers, and they've made their buck. You've got to be smarter than that. And I must admit, for educational purposes, I was on, for those of you that know Tory Lanez, quarantine radio and things, I was there for educational purposes, research and that, people. But I saw Kyle Walker in the comments, as I did Sterling, Joe Willock, Sancho, Rashford, Tammy Abraham, Ryan Barble. What's that youth from Southampton, Obafemi? He was moving a bit too keen, bruv, like moving very keen. But maybe that's where the inspiration came from. But Kyle Walker's got to move smarter on a serious note than that, people. On a serious note, he's got to move smarter. He knows, we all know as footballers, you almost idolise someone in his position. Someone's going to watch your every move. Someone is going to look up to you. And, we're human. We make mistakes. And ultimately, this is a mistake. But this is one of the mistakes you don't really have time for. I wouldn't call it an honest mistake. This is just being stupid, and he has to face the music. And I will say, off topic, completely irrelevant from this, not even congratulations, but I applaud Manchester City and United for what they're doing. If you want to know more, go and do your research. But both have more or less pledged to not take a penny from the government in relation to the furlong scheme. I cannot pronounce it, but the scheme where it's basically 80% of workers' wages with what's going on. And you know, it's about time footballers want to do their part, but football owners and clubs, I believe, are getting away with a lot. And when you see two teams that are the heartbeat of Manchester, forgetting rivalries, making sure they're looking after people, it's the least they could do, and I applaud them for such. Keeping up with professional footballers and whatnot, Wayne Rooney. Now, Wayne Rooney's got a lot to say, and he's got a lot of sensible things to say. So I'm just going to read it out. Obviously, this is in relation to certain politicians' comments. I want to take this opportunity. Oh, sorry, people. That's Kyle Walker's. That's Kyle Walker's thing, people. I'm not gonna get involved in that. Apologies, people. Let me find the Rooney thing. Oh, here we go. If the government approached me to help support nurses financially or buy ventilators, I'd be proud to do so, as long as I knew where the money was going. I'm in a position where I could give something up. Not every footballer is in the same position, yet suddenly the whole profession has been put on the spot with a demand for 30% pay cuts across the board. Why are footballers suddenly scapegoats? How the past few days have played out is a disgrace. He, obviously Hancock people, was supposed to be giving the nation the latest on the biggest crisis we faced in our lifetimes. Why was the pay of footballers even in his head? Was he desperate to divert attention from the government's handling of the pandemic? It seemed strange to me, because every other decision in this process has been kept behind closed doors. But this has been announced publicly. Why? It feels as if it's to shame the players, to force them into a corner where they have to pick up the bill for lost revenue. In my opinion, it's a no-win situation. Whatever way you look at it, we're easy targets. And 100%, like Rooney said, they've got no problem paying for stuff. They've got no problem helping out. I'm not going to sit here and list them, but you've seen many of footballers doing things big up across the leagues, not just Premier League footballers. Teams like Stevenage, who really, you know, are not really in a position. Teams like that could very much go under if this thing continues, people, but doing things. I do think footballers are a very easy target, because, you know, I'm not saying footballers are stupid or anything, because I'm exactly the same. In comparison to others, we probably do struggle to, even now I can't even find it, express and articulate proper views. Footballers are sadly seen as stupid, which is wrong. They're seen as flashing money and buying stuff, and it's true, people. When you see someone like Aubameyang with these cars and stuff, you can see as an easy target. But let someone say Aubameyang's not helpful and Aubameyang's not doing things for charity, because he is. You see in Neymar, people call him cocky, this, that and the other. He never forgets where he came from. He's actually annoyed because it's been leaked that he, you know, anonymously donated stuff. Torreira doing things for Uruguay. In our own England, there's many footballers doing things, but for me, I think Henderson is not that it can be a best example, because it's not a competition, but someone like Jordan Henderson, I've seen him come from Sunderland and Liverpool, two working class areas, and he's never forgotten that. Obviously it's irrelevant now, but Christmas, just Corona thing, Jordan Henderson's always doing little things for disadvantaged and stuff. Toby Alderweireld donating stuff as well. Troy Deeney. Do you get it? Footballers should donate because they're in a position. I think everybody should donate. I do think people like you and I that are not rich, that are cool, I think you need to look at yourselves as well, because I do think, and I think it's effing disgraceful that people always look to the rich to do everything. Obviously, if you've got more money, you can help. But it's almost like people want to sit on their hands and say, all right, cool, them man there got money, I don't, so you donate. I'm just going to sit here and complain. You don't have to donate, 10% of whatever, but you can donate the equivalent. Do you get it? You can donate £1, you can do something. And all I'm asking is that everyone make sure that they're singing from the same hymn sheet before they criticise others. And if you're going to criticise anybody, I'm not saying footballers should get criticised because they're doing what they're doing, people. But the owners are the ones with the TV rights. The owners are the ones seeing the benefits of the riches of this league, whether it's sponsorships, new sponsors and all different sort of things, transfers, the sheer amount spent on agent fees, ticket prices, season ticket renewals, apparel, all of these sort of things. The owners see the riches. The clubs are worth, how many clubs are worth like $1 billion, people? How many, look, how much is a club worth? Typically, top 6 team, you'd say about a couple billions or so. The owners typically are worth $1 billion in their own right. So you look at these billions and you see clubs are spending 400 and something million collectively on transfer fees, or a team like, I swear Liverpool spent 40 something on agent fees. Who's got a spare? What footballer has a spare 40 million to spend to hand people? No matter how rich they are, they might have a million, and obviously that's peas. But who's got a spare 40, 50 million? The clubs do. So what's more resourceful, people? Because purely because we don't see the owners and whatnot on the front line. What I mean by that is you could probably name. You can name probably 5, 6, 11 Brighton players. You'd probably, myself included, struggle to put a name to face for the owner. Not to just say he's alone. But they get away with a lot. The owners are the ones leeching off society. It's time for them to help it back, people. They're the ones exploiting these things. And also in relation to the MPs, I've said this in a lot of vids, but make sure he's got this. Why didn't he call out hedge fund owners? Why didn't he call out payday loans? Why didn't he call out bankers, top-ranking bankers? Why didn't he call out all these venture capitalists? Why didn't he call out all of them? Why? Because they're his friends. He don't want to drop them in it. He's using this as an agenda to get at footballers. They're overpaid. Yes, the footballers, when you compare other things, should in an ideal world footballers be paid that much? Potentially not, because they're not saving lives or anything. But it's a byproduct of the demand of the league. And do you think Mesut Ozil or Alexis Sanchez would get them wages at Man United and Arsenal respectively if the owners weren't making mad peas somewhere along the lines? What footballers earn are pennies, people. And and especially for me, if they're not working class, if they don't donate to charity, fair enough. But footballers always giving up their time, and the ones I've listed always giving up their time for charities and communities, always donating, never forgetting where they're from. And it's sad, people, and there is no win situation, people. There is absolutely no win from this, and we just hope that something can, we can come to a resolution. I forgot to mention it, so let's quickly go back to Kyle Walker's apologies, people. His actual apology. He said, "I want to take this opportunity to issue a public apology for the choices I made last week, which have resulted in a story today about my private life in a tabloid newspaper. I understand that my position as a professional footballer brings the responsibility of being a role model. As such, I want to apologise to my family, friends, football clubs, supporters, and public for letting them down. There are heroes out there making a difference to society at the moment, and I've been keen to help support and highlight their amazing sacrifices and life-saving work over the past week. My actions in this matter are in direct contrast to what I should have been doing during the lockdown, and I want to reiterate the message: stay home, stay safe. So Walker, practice what you preach and you'll have no worries." My guy, it's as simple as that. Like, it really is as simple as that. Just stay in your yard, or if you're going to do what you're doing, make sure you don't get caught, whether I condone it or not, people. On that note, though, there isn't much more to cover, so yeah, man, it is what it is in that regard. In fact, finally, I've actually missed something else. But the latest, and we know there's going to be a bit of back and forth in relation to the league. 1 minute it's on, then it's not. Then we're trying to talk about China, behind closed doors, all of these things, people. But the latest we're all seeing via the Daily Mirror, government sources have suggested things will improve by the middle of April, and there has been some talk in some quarters of games being allowed to take place in front of supporters if the situation improves dramatically. Now, first and foremost, I think that's a bit scary. I think what as equally as important as this disease and finding a way to counteract it and finding a way to control it, equally as important is what we do next. Because I mean, if the population corona victims decrease, if it gets eradicated, which it can't, what happens next? That doesn't mean as a society, corona's gone today, we can, start sunbathing legally now and doing all of these things. That would be dangerous, people. It's about the after effects, people. It's almost, you feel there's a calm before a storm, in my opinion, with this as well. So we need to be very careful and think, what protocols can we install, especially in large gatherings and public places? Because I'm sure, like you lot, you want society to get back to normal. You want the football games. Me, I personally don't care about Reading Festival, Edinburgh, Glastonbury, all the wireless, all of these things. The one thing I care about is Carnival, people. Notting Hill Carnival, the real thing. Shout out to Leeds Carnival and all these other things. But Notting Hill, that's my highlight of the year. I badly want that. I've conceded it's gone, people. I want it to get back to normal. But with this, the silver lining is, how do we counteract this stuff? How do we better, not just this, but how many germs are on TFL and in public life? How can we fix this up? Because I'm not naive. Obviously, we clean trains and stuff. But as someone that takes TFL to work for a number of years now, it does appear like it's taken corona for a proper deep cleanse of TFL underground trains, and actually for people to wash their hands, people, because you'd be surprised how many people have poor hygiene. I'm sure you've all seen it, especially in the males' toilets at football games. You might be. I remember at Arsenal last game before this Corona thing. Not that I'm watching other people, but I'm doing my thing in the toilet now. I've finished, sprinkled myself off, washing my hands now, and I just see Donny walk out. Like, I've just seen Donny walk out. I get out now. I see him all touching other people and touching his mates. I was thinking, rah, like, you're all touching, handshaking, and you've been touching your sweaty, dirty thingy, bruv. You're moving mad. Some people are dirty people, really dirty. So I am scared, man. It's at the end of the day, just we have to think about aftercare. We have to think about a potential re-wave of this thing. And I don't want to say it's going to be zombie apocalypse, but typically you do see with viruses, not that I'm a doctor, they become immune to some things and they come back stronger and things like that. So, I think we need to be very careful. If Corona was officially not a problem tomorrow, I don't think we should start flocking to the streets and stuff. It needs to be a gradual process. But I mean, if government sources are saying that it is what it is, but you've also heard government saying that it's a myth that it's going to come back. As you lot all know, there's about £762 million collectively on the table that I guess broadcasters both home and abroad will want refunding if we cannot play the Premier League, which has a knock-on effect. As you lot know already, we're in advanced talks with the government over a potential return to football in June. Apparently, there's a tentative agreement for top flight football to resume behind closed doors after 20 clubs mapped out a plan with senior officials on the resumption of matches. In principle, with government officials hopeful of a corona outbreak's peak in the UK in the next few weeks, they will sanction games under strict guidelines. At an emergency meeting on Friday, which we've kind of covered, the plan was discussed at length, with the accord reached in principle on a finish to the Premier League season, should the situation improve as expected, people. So yeah, in short, there'll be limited contact, you can assume, with the wider public, behind closed doors, only necessary people here. I don't know if that will extend to, do they cut the coaching? Do they cut the coaching things down? The coaching stuff, like, I know you might have 5 physios, you might have 5 whatever. Do you cut that down to 2 of each? And if you do, how much are you putting yourself at risk? Because these are a lot of smart individuals and things like that. Do you get it? Obviously, you're going to need an ambulance service and things like that as well. What happens if a player gets injured? Do you see what I'm saying, people? What happens if, again, I don't want to say it, but you can imagine if the Emirates is banging now, if we're about to play a game behind closed doors, there's going to be at least one pub legally or illegally trying to link up. Or if not, there's going to be a group of people walking around the streets as supporters for any fan. So there's a lot of things to think about, people. There's really a lot of things to think about. But it's not for me to think about. It's not for you to think about. We've just got to react and offer our opinions on such. So on that note, people, as usual, it's always a pleasure speaking to you guys. But I'm going to have to get out of here. Deluded.